talk by Annalise Devet. So, to talk more about and to welcome everyone here, I'll call on interior designer Elvira Diaz in behalf of Dean Mervy Pueblo of the School of Fine Arts and Design.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Philippine Women's University School of Fine Arts and Design, it is my pleasure to welcome you to this morning's special event, Disarming Design, an artist talk by the esteemed Belgian designer, educator, and cultural worker, Ms. Annalise Devet. Ms. Mervy Pueblo, our esteemed dean, deeply regret that she cannot be with you in person due to a prior commitment. Still, it is with great pleasure and enthusiasm that she sent her warmest greetings and deepest thanks to all of you, students, faculty, guests, and members of the broader creative community for being here. We hope that you are able to settle in comfortably and enjoy the morning ahead. We prepared this space as an opportunity not only to listen and learn, but also to feel inspired, engaged, and in conversation with one another and with ideas that will be shared. Thank you, everyone. Maraming salamat po, and welcome to Disarming Design.
Okay, and to talk a little bit more about artistic research in Philippine Women's University, I'll call on Josephine Torralba, the Director of Artistic Research Center.
Thank you. So, good morning, everyone. Dean Mervy, she's, I think, online, the Dean of the School of Fine Arts and Design. Dean Earl, over here, School of Music, esteemed faculty, students, and participant scholars of the ITP program, and honored guests. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to this culminating lecture and workshop at the close of Annalise Devet's first two-week visit to the Philippines. A visit that has sparked meaningful conversations and creative collaborations across our PW campus, as well as in partner communities in the provinces across Luzon and Visayas, in close coordination with our local institutional partners. Today's session is part of the international training program of the artistic research, on artistic research, a 3-year initiative supported by the Flemish Inter-University Council in partnership with St. Lucas School of Arts in Antwerp, Belgium. As one of the largest international training grants awarded to PWU, the ITP marks a significant milestone in our growing commitment to practice-led research, global dialogue, and socially engaged artistic practice. Initially developed with the School of Fine Arts and Design and School of Music, the Artistic Research Center currently manages the program. ARC serves as the university's hub for artistic and interdisciplinary research. It brings together artists, designers, musicians, researchers, and community partners to explore creative practices as vital forms of knowledge making. Grounded in lived experience, cultural context, and collaborative methods, ARC supports research that challenges norms, builds solidarity, and speaks to the urgencies of the time. Through ITP, we build a shared learning environment where artistic research thrives, not only as a method, but as movement, rooted in place, yet reaching across borders in solidarity and imagination. We look forward to February next year, when we will culminate the ITP program with an international artistic research conference, a space to gather, reflect, and share the knowledge, practices, and connections built through this journey. It is in this spirit that we welcome today's guest speaker and facilitator, Annelies de Vet. Annelies is a Belgian-based designer, researcher, and educator whose long-term project focused on participatory design in socially and politically complex contexts. She is the founder of Subjective Editions, a publishing platform that maps places through the lived perspectives of their inhabitants, and also the co-founder of Disarming Design from Palestine, a design initiative that collaborates with artisans to tell alternative stories of life under occupation. From 2009 to 2019, she served as director of the master's program in design at the Sandberg Institute in Amsterdam, and later led the temporary master's program Disarming Design from 2020 to 2022. She recently completed her PhD titled Disarming Design, Politics of Participatory Practices at Antwerp Research Institute for the Arts, and currently teaches the MA Masters in Sociopolitical Design in St. Lucas School of Arts in Antwerp. Her practice continues to inspire and challenge, demonstrating how design can become a powerful tool for resistance, care, and transformation. So please join me in a warm welcome of Annelies de Vet.
Thank you so much, Josephine, for this generous welcome and invitation to come to the Philippines. It is my first time here, but definitely not my last. I'm counting the days for February to come back also with the Belgian colleagues. And I also want to express my gratitude and appreciation of the collaboration with all the ITP members. It has been really inspiring, and I think particularly also because we were able to take time. Maybe every time we are together, we are short in time, but it spreads over 3 years, and it really allows to kind of digest ideas, build up relationships, reflect on conversations that we have and questions that we shared. So for me, it has been a really learningful experience and really a grateful experience to get to know you, and also in the last 2 weeks have been beyond words in the spaces we visited, the conversations we encountered, and the hospitality that I was taking care in. It's a lot to take with me. So I really want to express my deepest gratitude and joy for welcoming me in such a context. Today, I want to dive into particularly the curriculum of the Disarming Design department, which was a master's program in design in Amsterdam. So I used to be head of a design department, and maybe what's good to realize or to draw some context is in the Netherlands, a bachelor is 4 years and a master is 2 years, and they're both full-time studies. And in Belgium, the bachelor is 3 years and the master is 1 year, and also both full-time. So it's just different educational context, and I think also different from the educational context here in the Philippines. So myself, I studied graphic design back in the 90s, and then I was invited in 2003 in Estonia. And as a workshop model, I invited the students to make a subjective atlas of the EU, of the European Union, because Estonia just became a member state. And so it was a joyful and learningful experience to have this 2-week workshop. And somehow it was never intended as a series, but somehow it enrolled as a series, and now I'm here in the Philippines to make a subjective atlas of the Philippines, which is now more than 20 years later than the first edition. But maybe what was the most crucial experience for me in making subjective atlases, and I will tell a bit more about what it is, and I will also have some of those books to give to the university library. So every subjective atlas maps a region from inside out by the communities themselves who express or visualize what does it mean to live on a certain location at a certain point in time. And so with the Subjective Atlas of Palestine, I made it in 2007. We worked together with the International Academy of Art in Ramallah, and they invited all participants, architects, artists, designers, photographers, and together we mapped, or they actually mapped Palestine according to very much to daily life experiences. I'm wondering, is it possible maybe to turn off this slide that the projection is more clear? Because I have a lot of images in my... That's better, right? Yeah. And so it's so we developed a book. But what, for me personally, was really important is, to me, that was my political awakening. I could say that in retrospect, to understand the history of colonization, the history of the colonization of the Palestinian land and the Palestinian people, the European complicity, and particularly also the role of art and art practices to imagine another future and to imagine other ways of being in the world. And also as a place of hope and as a place of joy to move forward. So that really struck me, to understand what artistic practice can be in relation to society and in relation to political questions. And if I say political question, I mean not necessarily political parties or power, but how do we live together? And how do we agree on living together? And how do we take care of each other? And within what conditions? And those are political questions. They relate to building our society. And I feel that artistic practice can really play a very important role to sensitize the notions and also the notion of the other and other kind of realities. Meanwhile, I was also heading a design department in Amsterdam, the Sandbeck Institute, from 2008 to 2018, which is a master's program in design, and we are particularly interested in how does design relate to society, and how can we pose questions through design, so not through language, but how can design pose questions? And how can we use design to understand reality, or to understand the world that we're in, or to shape the world that we're in? So those were very central questions, and most students who graduate, they start their own practice and are often very much socially concerned, politically aware, interested in community building, and very much interested in how can artistic practice contribute to questions of justice, of community, and also of the imagination and of speculation. And then after 10 years of heading this master's department, we made a publication, and you see it on the slide, but I also want to give some attention to it because it will also be part of the library here. It's called Design Dedication, like how can design be dedicated? We asked all the tutors, we were a small team, and we asked some alumni and some current students, like what for you was the core value of your experience of either studying or teaching at this department, and could you write an essay with this core value central? And so the book combines a couple of essays that address on what people felt was of value and what we think of the future of design education should take care of. So I think it's it's a very inspiring book, but I edited it, so I'm a bit biased. And it will also be part here at the library. And it's very beautifully designed by also former students of the department. I mentioned that making the subjective atlas of Palestine was for me really important. One side, just to be in Palestine, to understand to understand the size of the land, the size of the wall, to understand, see the people, to taste the food, to feel the temperature, just to really have an embodied experience. But also to be in conversation with like-minded people, namely also designers. And sometimes maybe we have a very different history and we're subject to very different power structures. But the moment we were talking about the typeface or about how to design a certain page, we were at that moment on some, we found a common ground. And it was through these aesthetic questions about design that we were able to unravel or unpack complex political questions without answering these questions directly, but by negotiating on the aesthetic questions, there was another kind of relationship and another kind of understanding of the places that we're at. So it was this kind of experience, kind of really a lived, embodied experience, like putting your body into the subject and not putting a subject into your body, that I also wanted to pass on to my master students. And so I started to organize workshops in Palestine together with the International Academy of Art Palestine, with who I also made the atlas. And we organized yearly workshops where we worked together with artisans who were painting, cutting, dealing with all kinds of materials and historical ways of making things. We worked together with Palestinian artists and designers, and I brought some of my students, those who wanted. So it was extracurricular. You could also say, well, I'm not interested in joining. So it's only for those who were interested. They were able, there was a possibility of joining. And there's a couple of years that I was able to organize a workshop, like a 2 or 3 week workshop in Palestine, bringing some of my students and then working with a lot of local artists and artisans. And what we did was we visited different workshops and understanding how are people working, and often, particularly with these artisans, it's a kind of practice that in the Netherlands and Belgium you hardly see because everything is outsourced. You don't see these small workshops anymore unless they're like I don't know, very expensive self-producing designers, and it becomes very exclusive. While in Palestine, and I think also you see this more also in the Philippines, you have more artisans working in the center of cities, of villages, having small-scale production, and the scale maybe depends on how big their family is. And so it's not just making things, it's part of community life, part of the history of a place, part of the resources that can be found on the place, part of practices that have been passed on through generations, not through books, but through practices. And so also we traveled around in Palestine, particularly in the West Bank, but also 1 year in Jerusalem, 1 year also in Gaza, 1 year in a refugee camp in Jordan. And we just spent time, traveled together, had lunch together. We had a lot of food. I think food is like a fantastic way of building community, a way of also have no agenda, but be together, taste, share tastes. And together we developed, and that was, that caused or that inspired a lot of conversations. And these conversations and questions translated themselves into products. When we visited the artisans, these understandings became earrings, ceramics, tools. And so over the years, we built a whole collection of products that not only translate a story, but also unpack a story. And we took these products in production and showed them in all kind of exhibition sites, and also this should wait. Also made a web shop where all the products are presented. You can buy them, and it's now a Belgian non-profit organization. We have all the stock in Belgium, and we ship from Belgium, and each time go back to the artisans for new production. And also at this moment in time, when the situation in Palestine is beyond the worst that it has ever been, we continue production to support the livelihood of the artists and artisans, but also to really empower Palestinian narratives, particularly cultural and human narratives, because what's taking place is a radical dehumanization of Palestinian people and of Palestinian life. And I hope with this project we can contribute slightly to sensitize and humanize and create a deeper understanding. While talking about Palestine, I also really want to express my solidarity with the Palestinian struggle and address the atrocities that are currently taking place, and really support everyone to support the Palestinian cause and support humanity and human rights, think about ways how we can do it, for instance, with boycott, divestment, and sanctions, and non-violent ways of addressing what is currently going on. I'm speechless of what to say, but Francesca Albanese, the United Nations Special Rapporteur of the occupied Palestinian territories, she says, "In times of crisis, I act." And it's these words that also kind of empower me as a maker or as a designer, thinking, okay, sometimes I don't know what to do, how to respond, how to express. I'm not a politician, I'm not a lawyer. Thank God I'm a designer. And through design we can act, we can do things. And I think that's really important, like how through artistic practices can we express. Yet at the same time, so to go back a few years, I was working many years in Palestine, but also confronted with a lack of proper language to express what was going on, and also to express my own position as a white European woman working in Palestine, working with different communities. Like, how do we talk about it? What are kind of the power disparities that come to the table, and how to act there, act on a conscious and sensitive ways, and how to express that. So that was part of the reason to apply for a PhD, to be able to grasp, to grasp actually, or to understand what was going on, and how can I be more conscious of it, how can I do it better, and also how can I share all the knowledge that I gained through all these years, and particularly through experience and through working in Palestine. How can I share that and put it into words? So I applied for a PhD in Antwerp, and then my main kind of concern was, like, how can participatory design processes contribute to the strengthening of political agency, and what kind of infrastructures are needed to improve and maintain this? How can design be liberated from the goal of finding solutions and become a field for political reflexivity and agency? How can we design alternative organizational models to foster infrastructures of cooperation and solidarity? And if sustaining a radical design practice in the field is difficult, can design education become a training ground to offer a head start? So how can we, within the educational spaces, already think of how can we shape different kind of design practices that can catch up with justice and dignity? So this is a bit kind of the structure of my PhD. So I had 3 main projects, like the subjective editions, the subjective atlases, Disarming Design from Palestine, the design label, and you also find a small leaflet on all the tables. You can take it with you. And then the Disarming Design Masters, which I will focus on more in this presentation. So one is more about alternative cartographies, one is more about heritage and crafts, and the other one is more about pedagogy, and all within kind of political, social political context. Like, how can these practices contribute to shaping a more sensible world? And I posed questions around, like, what are the relationships, what are the ecosystems, how can they contribute to emancipatory processes, what are the institutional relations, what kind of power structures, how does it contribute to liberation, to solidarity, to participation, to care? And it's these questions that I unpacked and wrote a book about, and I'm at the moment editing the book, and I hope when I'm back in February that I can bring the book. Let's cross fingers. But in order to kind of grasp that, I also, there were many people and writers that really helped me to find words, because I didn't always know the words. So, for instance, bell hooks has been very important in you all know bell hooks? of like how she really takes these personal experiences in the classroom about very particular moments and uses that to address more institutional, political, racist complexities, or how to unpack them. Celine Seman is a Lebanese-American designer with the Slow Factory, which I'm very inspired by. Donna Haraway also in having to really address the situated perspective, that we cannot work to one perspective, but how we should stimulate and address also these very different perspectives that we always have, and that it's always situated and always limited, but that's what we can offer. And also Arturo Escobar, a Colombian anthropologist, has been very important. How he has this book, Designs for the Pluriverse, how he sees modernism as a movement working towards a one way of interpreting the world, or one way of being in the world, and how he feels like a decolonial practice is the opposite. Like, how can we really contribute and empower many ways, plural ways to be in the world? And therefore he says design for the pluriverse. How can design contribute to different ways of being in the world? And he says that design is a way to express how we are in the world, but it's also a way and design also shapes us. So for instance, a fork is an expression of how to eat, but also the fork defines how we eat. So that's a very simple one, but there's many ways, like how we shape our environment, how we build our spaces. We shape them, but they also shape us. And how can we be conscious of these dynamics, and how can we turn it into that it really contributes to diversity and different ways and situated ways of being in the world. And so then and that really helped me also to shape the curriculum of the Disarming Design department. So I had been heading this permanent Masters in Design, and then I had all these experiences in Palestine and brought my students there, and they said 2 weeks is too short. Like, can't we have a longer term experience? And then as I was part of the Institute in Amsterdam, I got the opportunity to set up a completely new master's program called Disarming Design, and it was focusing on design practices in situations of oppression. And the curriculum would move somewhere between crafts, design, politics, and resistance, and community. And so how can we build a community that addresses these fields and finds a common ground within it? In imagining the curriculum, I also really thought about the body. Like, how can a curriculum activate all different parts of the body? So it's the mind, but I think general, the mind is very central in education. We think, oh, you need to know this and this and this and this and this. But it's also about the hands for the skills, it's the ears for listening, but it's also the face for expression, but it's also the feet for trips and field trips and movements, the skin for experiences, the underbelly for intuition. So how, if we think of a curriculum, how can we make sure that all these body parts somehow are activated throughout the curriculum? And so then we build the program. We accepted 17 students from 11 different nationalities that came together in an oh yeah, I thought there was another slide in between. Yeah, so we had 17 students, 11 different nationalities, and also 11 people without an EU passport, which, if you study in the Netherlands, is a huge difference. But then those with the EU passport often are not aware what the difficulties are for people in the Netherlands, also studying in this white institute without an EU passport, and therefore without a lot of access to support, to understanding the system. Well, you know all about it. And so it was something that we also wanted to consciously address in the department and also towards the institute, because if in the Netherlands, lots of educations are kind of saying, oh, we're so international and we welcome international students, but when it comes down to the conditions and the support, often the staff, the white Dutch staff, has no idea what the implications are of having different kind of papers. So it was something that with our department we really also addressed, and that we try to create support systems for. So here you see the students at work doing their own different kind of projects. And so it's very much, what I think is also really important to realize that in this particular master program, or the system of this master education, is that if you are a master department, you define the whole curriculum. There's no theory classes or other things that the university offers. What the master department offers, that's all the students get. So you're, in a way, complete islands. Every master department is their own universe, and everything they offer in theory, practice, experience, trips, is everything the student gets. There are some lecture programs that students can attend, there's workshops that students can access, but like the curriculum is fully offered by the department. So one of the things that I organized, I never anticipated it would be COVID. In imagining the curriculum building up, we started to accept students, and then we had a lockdown, but I thought, that's just a month. And then we started in a global lockdown, so that made the whole program, the whole dynamic quite different. And I think particularly also for the international students, it was really hard also to get acquainted to the city, because everything is closed. There was an evening clock, so it brought many students also in a depression. It was a very, very hard time. So we also had online symposia, and this is one I organized called Design Urgencies, which was a 3-day online exchange on conditions for social transformation through design. And I asked students to there's something strange. Wait, I just have to check my slides. Okay, now I get it. So this was this was one of the symposia that I organized, in which also I asked the students to organize workshops. So it's very much also a student-shaped curriculum, and we're very much open to the feedback of the students and to shape the curriculum together, not to predefine everything without yet knowing the students or without yet knowing the dynamics. So to be really flexible in how to shape the curriculum. So after 2 years, they graduated. This is, wait. Wait. Now I see what's going on. I was missing some slides, but now I understand why. This is the team. I just want to express how the curriculum was built. So I was the head, then we have a coordinator. We had a group of four core tutors, but one tutor was a collective. And then we had some guest tutors. So there's the design research, organizational art, experimental publishing, artistic practice, emancipatory writing, curatorial practice, decolonial practices, and type and design. And we asked the tutors to also shape their own program, not to say, okay, you teach typography, you teach this, and you teach that, but more to invite the students because of their own practice and what they bring in, and ask them, what do you think is needed? And then for me as a head, I kind of balance the different aspects. So it's a 2-year program. So it started with the preparation, then we have first semester, second semester, third semester, fourth semester, and then also post, it's like after school. And I think, in building the curriculum, it's important to think, okay, what happens after graduation, and how, when we're all together still in the institute, how can we support what's happening after graduation? So with the preparation, it's like the outlines, we had an open day, articulation of the curriculum. The first semester, it's more introduction, navigating, wayfinding, like where are all the resources, where are the workshops, so to make sure that people find their way around. The second semester was more focused on experimenting and harvesting, so it's more to stimulate students to do self-initiated projects, build their networks, collect inspiration, The third semester, so that's then after the summer holiday, they write their essay, so it's more on materialization and sharing, and then on positioning and articulation, so they write an essay, and then the fourth semester is graduation, so then it's really materialization and sharing with the graduation show. The structure of the curriculum was more or less like this. Also, because it was COVID, we were only allowed to organize classes 2 days per week at school. So we did, like Wednesday, we would have either a digital class or a field trip. Then Thursday, we had Yassan Khalili, a Palestinian tutor or a guest tutor. In the afternoon, it was Rana Ghafani on writing, or the other week there was a guest tutor. Then on Friday, we had one tutor, the other Friday there's a guest. And Friday afternoon was a workshop by one of the students. This is how we designed the curriculum. This is all the classes that they get, unless they can walk around on school and follow other things, but this is what we offer. However, reality is more like this. So this is the first year, that's the second year. It's always kind of chaos, the depression, excitement, going up and down. But that's also enriching, and I think we should create space for this chaos and this unpredictable process of how studying goes. So for the second semester, based on all the experiences of the first semester, of the first year, this was the program for the second year, and also this is how I offered it to the students. So it said, this is the year, so it's from October to June. Above the line is kind of more or less mandatory, below the line is optional. I will zoom in because it's a bit small. So we started the second year with an exhibition. So instead of having an exhibition at the end of the year, we said, okay, we start with an exhibition, we make that in 2 weeks, just to kind of don't have the pressure of graduation show, but to experiment with spaces. Then it's the I'm Stuck class from Yazan. I come back to that. We had read critical theory. We asked students to make a journal to really kind of make sure that they write their process, and also to avoid that it's too much on the final product, but that it's really use this artistic practice, use experimentation as a way to research, to pose questions. Then we had assessments. And this huge pencil is writing the essay. We had assessments. We had an international trip. We had a symposium called Life After Sandberg Symposium. I also come back to that. And then there was experimental publishing, and it would lead to the graduation project. These are individual tutoring, and then this music line. We don't make music, but it was kind of the melody of the, preparing for the graduation show. So we saw that, okay, that's kind of how to synchronize the whole group, that we have a collective show. And then we had optional things. At that time I made Subjective Atlas of Amsterdam, which is this one, and also the students participated in it. We did a 24-hour radio marathon. We had a Christmas party. Every month the coordinator organized a collective dinner where people brought their food. We were part of Documenta 15 because one of the curators of the Documenta was also one of our tutors, and she invited students to be part of the process. And so there's optional projects. So to say a bit how we approached education, this is really the beginning of the year. So to me, as a head, I also teach, but I'm more of more kind of overviewing the whole structure of the department. But as it was lockdown at that period, it was a bit hard. And I live in Belgium, the school's in Amsterdam, so there was not a collective introduction day for the whole institute. But I organized an introduction week in my own house. In Belgium. I live in a farm, and I invited all the students for a week in my house, which was for most of them not very common. But I think it's really important, because then in 1 week we get to know each other much better than maybe in a year. And also everybody agreed, like the week before they didn't see anyone, the week after they didn't see anyone, so we didn't have to wear masks. and we could be all together for 1 week. And during that week, we've been hiking, harvesting apples. People shared their practices. Every day, and there was another student cooking, and I think that really helped to also build community with the students and amongst the students. And another thing that I initiated is I asked the students to everyone, can you organize one workshop for your group? It can be anything, but something, a skill that you have, a knowledge that you have, but organize a workshop for the group, and you can also do that together. It doesn't have to be individual. And then, I dedicated this Friday afternoon, but it never happened on a Friday afternoon because it didn't really fit the schedule of the students. They wanted to do it on their own terms, on their own location, which I thought was fine. But it took a bit more time before it really started. But once it did, like here, there were making sessions that they just came together to make things without a final goal, but kind of come together to make. Some organized a self-publishing publication. Yeah, they wanted to make a publication and call it "The Food is Always Good." And everybody brought content, and in one afternoon they made a publication. There's a print workshop, so then directly after they printed it, and also just to make things, and then through making, developing things or encountering different conversations. Now I understand why I was confused by my presentation, because it was here. But in order to do all these things, or to be able to do that, the conditions that a school offers, or the conditions that a university creates, is crucial for what's possible and what's impossible. And therefore, I wanted to show you our conditions. So this is my contract. So the time that I have is, let me see, I have in total 57 days for a whole year to do the program, which came down to 1.5 days per week for 40 weeks per year. So that's my contract in order to build the program, build a whole curriculum, and to head a master's department, which I think is insane. And I miscalculated that. I thought it was. I thought, there's other people who also did it, so I should be able to do it as well. But I definitely worked 2 times as much, and that's my own responsibility. And then also the tutors, they worked half a day per 2 weeks. So you saw many tutors, which is nice, but they were there only half a day per 2 weeks. So it's really a puzzle, like how with such limited conditions are we able to organize proper education? And then also, this was our classroom. So every department has their own room, that's nice. But because it was lockdown, we were only able to access it 2 days a week. And I think it's really important to have a shared space. And so did the students. So this room didn't function. And the students themselves said, we want another place. And they were looking around in Amsterdam. And finally, we found an alternative space, a building that was about to be squatted. And so for very little rent, we could rent it as a department, and we had 24-hour access, 7 days a week. So that was really, it was really a game changer for the students. And the great thing, there was a kitchen in the middle of the space. So, but the students themselves paid the rent. So I think the Sandberg Institute paid half of the rent, and the students the rest, and they divided. So I think everyone had to pay like 25 euros per month. And then they also had to negotiate, like, okay, who is doing the cleaning? Who has the key? What are the rules for the common space? So some students got very annoyed by that, but other students said, hey, but this is really what it is about sharing resources, sharing spaces. So at some point it was confrontational, but it was also something that the students went through. And as tutors, we now visited the students, and the students didn't visit us. And I think that was really important. They had the agency, and not us as tutors. And then with the kitchen in the middle, food became really a crucial part of the program, and particularly food prepared by the students themselves. And that was, incredible. The food, not everybody liked cooking, but I think everybody liked eating. Then there's a coordinator. She works 2 days per week and helps more for the coordination. So she is very crucial. She was, and also she's third generation Palestinian living in Chile, and she did her master's. She was my former student. And she organized, so we organized together the Life After Sandberg Symposium, in which we invited representatives of funding. We invited alumni to speak about the experience. We invited lawyers to talk about visa processes, or how, as a non, if you don't have an EU passport, how do you prepare in order to stay in the Netherlands? Or how do you set up your own practice? How can you ask for a VAT number? What are the consequences? Where to find support? So anything that we were able to think, okay, that could be important. And also we asked the students, like, okay, what are the issues that you're dealing with and that we can give you support? Because we have a little budget, so maybe it's more interesting to invite a lawyer than a fantastic artist talking about his work. So it's also to see, okay, what are the needs of the group and how can we support that? Then we have Yassan Khalili, who's a Palestinian artist, incredible artist, very intelligent, and he was at that time living in Amsterdam and still living. And his classes were called I'm Stuck. And I think in the beginning, it was very hard for students to share their work because they felt a bit intimidated by the group. And it took a long time before people felt comfortable making things. So a lot of the sessions became very discursive. And some are verbally very strong, so some felt really intimidated, it was emotional. So it was very challenging. And so on a certain point, Yazan changed his classes and called it I'm Stuck. And he invited students to talk about their problems. And so you would sign up and say, okay, what is your problem, and how can the group help you? So instead of saying, look how beautiful my painting is, people said, okay, I'm struggling with finding the right colors. Can you help me? And then everybody would say, oh, I think this and this and this. And so that was the setup. There was half an hour per person who signed up, and the group would come to support. And then there were, I think, maybe 5 of these I'm Stuck presentations per session. And that became really valuable. And I think also it opened a generous space to talk about problems instead of talking about problems and challenges. And it could be of any sort, not just artistic. It could also be, I cannot find a house to live in. Can you all help me? And so students were offered the space to kind of use the group as a resource. Lara Galdi, also Palestinian, she was part of the curatorial team of Ruang Grupa, the Indonesian collective that curated the Documenta in Germany. And so she invited the students to be part of the Lumbung sessions, and Lumbung is the Indonesian word for shared harvest, shared rice. I don't know if you know better. And the first question she asked to the students said, okay, what can you offer to the group? And everybody had to write it down on a paper. And then there was a kind of a pot. And then we took it out. And then some said, I can offer Arabic English translation. Someone said, well, I have a driver license, so if anybody needs it. And someone else said, I can cook very well, or I can do a one-on-one session. So everybody had to think of, okay, what can I give to the group? And then also Lara said, okay, I already have a salary, so I don't want a fee for my classes. I give the fee to the group, but you have to decide together what to do with the fee. And that was also the setup of the Documenta. They also gave the artist, as a group, money, and the artists amongst each other had to discuss how do we share this money. So it was really thinking also about resources, about collectiveness, about support. And then she invited the students to be part of the preparatory meetings towards the Documenta, where the artists would meet in online meetings. And she asked the students to be the harvester. And a harvester is the person who kind of you could say the note taker, but the notes can also be a drawing, can also be a sound piece, can also be whatever the harvester thinks is a nice way to capture the meeting. And she also always would assign a timekeeper, so that someone would keep the time, and a joker. So someone who would who could break the ice or could make a joke when there's tension or something unexpected to happen. And I thought these roles, the harvester, the joker, and the timekeeper, was really crucial, and it became something that the students were using also for other meetings, particularly when they had problems to discuss around the space, how to deal with the space. So that was very interesting. Then there's Rana Gafami, a Dutch artist and writer, and she helped the students in their writing practice. So the first year it was more kind of reading practices. So she was looking at the students, what are their interests, and how can we maybe make small groups with shared interest. And then she proposed certain books, and they would read a book together and discuss that book. And so we started in September, and then in December, just before Christmas holiday, we had a collective gathering, and then we had bought a book for every single student, and that was our Christmas gift to the students. And a book that we thought as a team, okay, this book is really interesting for this person, this book would be interesting for this person. And that also then became the kind of the library of the department. So we hoped that after the students would read the book, they would share it with each other. So the first year was a bit more on kind of finding theories, writings, practices that you feel a common ground with as a student. And the second year, people wrote their own essays, also as a practitioner. And her first question with writing the essay was, can you bring something that is of value to you? That can be a song, it can be an object, it can be a material, and actually then start writing from that piece. So don't start writing from theory or a theoretical framework, but start writing from material. And I think that start was really interesting because it became very personal and empowering essays. And also, I have this book with me, also as a donation for the library here. Then Hannes Bernard, he supported the students in their curatorial practices. So in at the start of the second year, we made this collective exhibition, and the students called it Disclosing Discomfort. The students came up with the title. I was able to find a space, a cultural space in Amsterdam, and then they built up here the exhibition that had a lot of collective installations. So for instance, this is Samira, she's from Switzerland, and she really liked this collective weaving. So she made weaving installations and invited the audience to weave together, which happened. And actually it's through the weaving that all these conversations opened up and that something was made. And she made incredible installations with the, how do you call it, all the threads, the tuft, or the kind of the structure in which the people were able to weave. This is Siwar, and she made an alternative backgammon game as a way to have conversations with people. So it was really interesting. She was sitting there and inviting people to play the game with her and then have these conversations. And it was a 3-day exhibition which really opened up, it was a testing ground for the students to explore ideas without having this pressure of judgment, of assessment, it was really something to have conversations with the audience, which really helped to shape the graduation show that became Drifting Dialogues. You see here a small, I will show a few more images, because then the group knew, okay, how can we work together? Who's good in writing? Who's good in exhibition design? How can we divide the tasks? But before I go to the graduation show, there's also Ping, which is a collective of a Spanish designer, Argentinian artist, and a German designer and programmer, and they used to be my students at the design department, and they became a collective while they were studying, and I invited them as tutors at the Disarming design department to explore experimental publishing. The first thing that they did, the first class, was to make an 1-hour radio show. So in the morning they were explaining the technique and how to do it and the concept. And the end of the afternoon, the students made a 1-hour radio station, which then became part of the Rietveld radio, of online radio station. And it was a fantastic way to work together, to learn techniques, and also to practice voices, or to have, like, what are you saying, or how do you say it? And then at the end of the year, we had an kind of a solidarity meeting in relation to a pressure on institutional solidarity for the Palestinian cause. And we hosted a conversation on the initiative of the students, and they said, okay, let's make a live radio show of it. And now they had the tools of, like, how can we make radio, how can we record it, and that became a radio show, which is also still online. And then in the second year, Augustina Woodgate, the Argentinian artist of the collective, she has this 24-hour radio marathon that every year she organizes somewhere in the world with certain communities, teach them how to make radio, and then make a 24-hour radio marathon. She was invited for a biennial in South America, and then she proposed that year to make the 24-hour radio show in Palestine. But then her colleague is teaching in St. Martin's in London, and Augustina was teaching in Amsterdam, and it turned out we couldn't travel because it was a lockdown, so we decided to make a 24-hour radio show with the students in Palestine, our students, and students in London. And there were, I think, 3 months of preparation in which every Friday afternoon they had an online check-in, and through this online check-in, they were talking with each other and building the show. And there was this huge Excel sheet that slowly was being filled up with the program. And then in November, the show was made, and they were live in Amsterdam, live in Palestine, live in London, having this WhatsApp group, and then checking. And then it was, every time there was 1 hour in Palestine, 1 hour in Amsterdam, 1 hour in London. And so this whole show was made, and it's also still online. At the end of the year, at the end of the first year, there were 2 students who also met at the department and started to work together, and they made an Instagram story. And I thought it's nice just in between to show this Instagram story to give a bit of how they experienced it. I will read it. So, introducing Sarah de Blobface, a student at Disarming Design who loves to make zines together with Yara. This is Yara. And I'm not the biggest fan of tortellini. My last name is just too complicated to pronounce for some of us, so I decided to go by Van Tortellini. And together we will show you some of the things we, as a department at the Sandberg Institute, have done. Sandberg Disarming Design is a 2-year master program at the Sandberg Institute committed to design practices that deal with conditions of conflict, oppressive forces, and entangled histories, operating at the intersection of design, crafts, community, and politics. Every month or 2, some of our students organize making sessions, where we all gather at our studio in Amsterdam to weave, make clay sculptures, paint, and make the fluffiest, most delicious bread. Workshops are a big part of our program. Here we see some captures from the asemic writing workshop organized by TypeLab, or there were 2 students, at our studio. During the workshop, participants got introduced to the concept of asemic writing as a tool to questioning the systems of meaning and famous applications in fiction filmmaking. Another exciting kite-making workshop in collaboration with students from Immediate Spaces, that's another department, organized by the Pink Collective, and Hassem, a kite maker from Gaza. Testing, testing, testing. After finalizing our kites, we headed to the beach on the second day of the workshop and succeeded in flying all of them. But when it comes to Sarah and Yara, these two make the coolest scenes, at least that's how we hope people see them. Here is some of our process and final outcomes. The Onion of Cultural Appropriation was our first zine that we did during the Design Urgency Symposium. So the symposium that I organized online that you saw, where participants collected notes, thoughts, pictures, and screenshots during the lecture and were tasked to find a connection between these images and text to create a new narratives. As for our second scene, we decided to combine images from Lebanon and Palestine to create a storyline. The zine consisted of random thoughts of a person who was passing by these signages, trucks, shops in Lebanon and in Palestine. During the recent ongoing situation that is currently happening in Palestine, together as students from Disarming Design, we felt the need to take some action. For the first time in 73 years of occupation, the world is uniting to call Israelis' apartheid, settler colonialism, and ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people for what it is. The liberation of Palestine can only happen when individuals arm themselves with proper education and truth to debunk manipulative tactics which try to conflate anti-Zionism and anti-settler colonialism with anti-Jewish rhetoric. Therefore, we decided to ask the board of our school to release a statement condemning the settler colonial entity, that is the State of Israel, that is committing crimes against humanity, ethnic cleansing, and human rights violations. Especially since our department is derived from the long-term collaboration between the design department at Sandberg Institute and the Disarming Design from Palestine design label, which is committed to design practices that deal with situations of conflict, oppression, oppressive forces, and entangled histories. Last month, we took over the billboard in front of the Gerrit Rietveld Academy and spray painted some messages. We finally succeeding in convincing the board members of our academy to release a statement. We wouldn't have been able to do it without all the hard work from students of our department and other departments from the Sandberg Institute. Thanks for having us and letting us take over the Instagram account of the day. Cheers to you all, and don't forget to follow us if you want to make the world a better place. So just to give an impression of their perspectives or experiences. So now fast forward to the end of the 2 years. The students did not like the name Disarming Design. Some really hated it. They said, like, who has to be disarmed? Is it us? Are we being tokenized, or should we be dismantled, or who needs to be disarmed? Some people liked it, but there was tension around the name. They felt that they were being put in a certain frame. And then, as staff, we said, well, you can come up with a different title. I'm open to change the name of the department, but the students never agreed. There was never one name that they felt that was good. So we kept having the same name. But then came the graduation show, and then things become public. And so then, together with this publishing collective, Ping, they talked and talked, and finally they found a solution. They changed the name to DD, and then it could be, it could stand for all kinds of things depending on the context in which it existed. So for the graduation show, they decided to make a radio show, because radio really became kind of a common and collective practice. And the radio show was called Diaspora Delights. Then here the booklet they had called Durable Discussions, and then the graduation show they called Drifting Dialogues. Then they together made the design. There was this book which has all their essays. The typeface is a Ukrainian typeface by Kiev Type Foundry. They did the design together, and so it was each time collective, and also thinking of like, what does a shape mean? What does a typeface mean? It was printed in Estonia. We had a student from Estonia who worked with the print shop there, so he guided the printing process. The drawing on the cover is Mohammed Tatour, one of the students. So it became really an interesting collective essay, and I found a publisher in the Netherlands to publish the book, and I was able to find extra funding in order to make that happen. So we were able to really print the book and publish the book and have it ready at the graduation show, and also have an English editor to proofread all the texts. That was quite crucial. And so here you see all the students that finally graduated, but the real thing is that it was not them, it was also their friends, their parents, the tutors, the community, and so that's this photo. This was just after the graduation diploma ceremony. So here you see several of the graduation projects, like food and a mortar was made. There was a live screen printing. Someone was very interested in fermenting, but yeah, but there's another. I forgot the word. Yeah. No, there's this fungi that you put in it with tea and sugar. Kombucha. I was looking for the word kombucha. Yeah, so she was very interested in kombucha, and she made material out of the fungi. And then she made new materials with it. So her work was very much a material research, but also with a great ecological and care perspective. Here's a student who made this collective installation, which was very much about celebration as a form of resistance. So she organized parties and was a DJ, and also really as a form of resistance. And we should have joy together, we should dance together, and it's also a way to relieve tension, express. Another student made a video work, and also the pillows where this other student is sitting on. Someone was very interested in self-governing the art academy, so she became part of the student board, and she was really investing, okay, how's the power structure within the institute, and how can we organize an institute more common? Like, how can students be really involved in shaping the schools, shaping the curriculum? And she called it self-governing the art academy. This was Rasha, who made a magazine, Bain. Bain is the Arabic word for in between, and there were essays on design, particularly from a Middle Eastern perspective. And then another thing that they made was Daily Decisions, which is a website, a web archive, and I thought I'd show it to you quickly. Yes, it works. Oh, but only on my screen. Wait. So Daily Decisions bring together collaborative works by designers and artists from the Disarming Design Department of Sandberg Institute in Amsterdam. The presented projects generously share daring dialogues, collective collage, memorizing methods, unexpected unions, sophisticated structures, tentative translations, and intuitive instruments. Disconnect and connect, displace and place, undo and do together with our daily decisions. And so they built this whole website where, wait, I can see it here. So central is all the different, oh, it's a bit slow. all the different prompts that you can have with the DD. So for instance, dodging dogma, and then works that relate to dodging dogma. And this, everything is in a D shape, from the D. And here, well, maybe you can also try it at home. And so there's, in this case, it's the making sessions by the students, and you see all kind of photos and a text about how they did it. And so it's a very, I don't know if it's intuitive, but it's not a logical order, but it's more, it's really based on this kind of language came. Here in this case it's a text, and each time there's different different parts of what happened in the common ingredients. This is more about cooking. And you see photos of them doing it. So this website became an archive of everything that, or not everything, but many things that happened during those 2 years. Also to stress that the program is not about the final product that we see on the graduation show, but it's really about this process and about experimenting together, also cooking together, the dialogues that took place and the things that happened. And I think that's also really important in what happened after graduation, because many of them stayed in Amsterdam, many of them got an artist visa and are, also their paperwork is moving forward. They found a new collective space where they started to work together. They organized a lot of collective events. Some went back to the places they lived before, but many really stayed in Amsterdam and really became a community with themselves, but also with other people who have similar concerns and urgencies, and to support each other. And I think that's crucial, this kind of network and this kind of support, in order to stay out of more capitalist or more industrial systems, like how when someone gets a project, then they invite other people to join. And I think this kind of sharing and supporting is crucial of maintaining this artistic ecosystem. And I think that's what they, what they are doing brilliantly. I have to look at my mouse. Wait, how do I? Yes, there I am. So to kind of round off my presentation around the department, and also to kind of come back to my PhD, because then the department and all the things that happened and that I learned from the students, because they were quite challenging 2 years, but I think we all, we really learned a lot. And there's a Dutch pedagogue or educator who has a book, and he calls it the beautiful risk of education. Like that we cannot design safe education. It is a risk, and this risk entails lots of vulnerability and challenges. But if we are willing to take that risk, we are also opening the space for kind of magic encounters. And I think that really happened during these 2 years. It was on some points really hard for each of us involved on different ways, but on the end, like, we got so much out of it. And I think for many of them were the most transformative years, well, I wouldn't say of their life, but really of that period, like how it really went through our bodies, through our minds, and it was very important to really practice different ways of engaging with artistic practice. And so I believe that the role of aesthetics within these participative processes have been imperative in the sensory, material, and emotional conditions of the spaces where we meet, to the materials we engage with, and the hospitality we practice. So it was very important that we had a nice space to meet, that there was the food, that we really think about the sensorial conditions of education, and not just about the cognitive, but how can we open other ways of being, other ways of feeling. And by initiating collaborative platforms as counter-proposals, we can we can activate design as a methodology to amplify voices, mobilize audiences, and cultivate new initiatives and opportunities. So I see both the department, but also subjective editions, also such a book. These are also platforms. Also the radio shows that we made, they're kind of platforms that create, open other kind of possibilities, ignite new invitations, create opportunities of meeting other kind of communities. And I think it's interesting to think as a designer, like not just how to design an object, but how to design a platform, or how to foster platforms where we have other kind of conversations. And that is a different way of thinking, because then also it's about infrastructure for the platform, how do we meet, how do we come together, how do we fund, and people can have different roles. And I believe that in this way, design can be practiced as a means of setting conditions to collaborate and share political agency. In order to work to collective liberation by building communities and foster infrastructures for solidarities. Thank you.
Do we have questions for Annalise?
There's a question.
I'm Professor. So while I was listening to your presentation, I realized that we were doing it already in Zamboanga City.
Sorry, where?
In Zamboanga City. So it's southern part of the Philippines. Yeah, somewhere southern part in the Philippines. So there are two institutions or organizations that are actually doing the disarming design approach. The first one is the Silsila. It's actually a peace movement dialogue based in Zamboanga City that actually asks students or communities to do painting murals or dialogue discussion. The other one is also Peace Advocate of Zamboanga, where they organize Mindanao Week of Peace. Usually it happens every November. So maybe if we have time, we can visit the southern part of the Philippines. The Silsila, they have a community where they also teaches people how to cook, how to paint, and so many things. So maybe you could also explore that.
That sounds very inspiring. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, Annalise. Thank you for the wonderful talk. It was very inspiring. Actually, a community popped in my head because I was looking at the pamphlet, and I can see how a certain group can be uplifted through design and collaboration with teachers, designers, and of course, the community itself. So, for example, there's a particular community here in the Philippines, and there's a lot of islands. So if we start, let's say, in Luzon and try for them to, collaborate with design, what are the first steps, and how do we bring this institution here and to the community and build the design? How do we create the dialogue? Thank you.
Well, of course, there's not one answer, but I do think it is interesting to start sharing space, to be together and make things together. And I think in this practice of making together, kind of, something happens. And then it's important to be also receptive and sensitive for what is happening, and think, okay, how can we bring that? How can we bring that further? And I think that's also what we encountered in the last 2 weeks, when we had different workshops with different communities, in different places in the Philippines. That there were really interesting conversations, and sometimes unexpected conversations, or people came up with an idea that they didn't yet have before. And it's nice to think, to particularly if you are in a situation of access or of power or of access to institutes, like how can we get that idea further? How can we carry it further? How can we maintain relationships and continue the conversation and not kind of step in and step out, but how that's of value, how to maybe invite someone as a guest tutor here, organize another workshop. I think it's amazing to organize field trips with students, but I heard it's not so easy here as it was in Amsterdam. But maybe there's, I think creative minds might sometimes find other ways to do things. I hope. So I think to be in those workspaces, to go to the people, and not have the people going to you or to your institute, but to spend time at their places. That for instance in Palestine was really important, because when we invited the artisans at the art school and to talk about their work, they felt a bit intimidated. It was not so, language was not their main practice. But when we were in their workshop, we got coffee, or we smoked, we looked at the ceramics, there were questions about material, they showed, no, you do it like this and this and this, and then language was way less important, and they were really in their strength, and we were the visitors, and they had the agency over the moment. And I think that really is very different than inviting someone in your space. And then I think it would be really interesting to really think about these different practices. And for instance, yesterday I heard that there is a certain weaving method in the Philippines, but that Prada bought the exclusive right of being the only place where these weaving things can be sold to. You know about this? Okay, well, Murphy told me, Dean Murphy shared this yesterday, so I don't know exactly what it is, but I think, okay, that's what we should avoid, that there's exclusive rights, or like, okay, how can we share these practices? How can we learn from each other? How can we support that? And how can we continue these relationships?
Just a question, because we are talking about like designing the curriculum. How do you actually assess students? Like, were you giving them narrative grades or numerical grades? And how is the promotion process? Like, which students, so how do you determine whose students will go to the second term, to the third term, and eventually finish the whole program? Yeah.
So we have 2 official assessments per year, at the end of the first semester, the end of the second semester. But before we organize this official assessment, we ask the student to organize their own assessment. And so we call it the informal assessment, so there's no grading, and they have the agency of how things can be shared. And so the first year, they organized the whole collective dinner, and every course were like 2 or 3 students present, and they shared their work, and we had conversations about it. Then with the assessment, so what we don't do at the Sandberg Institute, and it is not a common practice, but it happens more often, we don't give grades. And I'm really, really happy that we don't give grades. And I would be also against giving grades, but it's also, understand that in Antwerp we do give grades, and it's everyone expects it, and it's harder to then me saying, well, I'm against it, and then it doesn't really work. But in the Sandberg, it's a common practice not to give grades, but to give verbal feedback. So to really write it down. And what we do is we also try to break down kind of the strong hierarchy of assessing. And also to say, well, why would we tutors know better than the students? So it's more collective feedback. So we ask also the fellow students to give feedback. So we also often call it feed forward instead of feedback. So what we did, the first assessment, the students presented their work, and then we had smaller groups, a bit like this, and we had like 10-minute or 15-minute per table, and you had other people who shared the feedback, then you went to the other table, you got feedback from the others, so it was less intrusive instead when it's in a collective room. But then the students felt that that was a bit too structured, and so the second semester was more open conversation. And then with the green light, when they had the third semester, we invited external guests to be peer readers for their text, and they share their feedback. And then as a team, we take notes and we make a text, and the students get this text as feedback, which is often a really beautiful text in which we try to address what we see as a quality and what we see as something to improve. So there's not one frame of saying, okay, it needs to be this, this, and this, and this, and this. We kind of look at the work, and we as a group of tutors and group of students, we think, okay, we have enough different perspectives to reflect on the work. And there's not one person who could say this is right and this is wrong. It's like, okay, how can we motivate, and what does it mean for this person? So it's very much kind of language-based and collective feedback, feed forward. And then to fail and pass, people pass if they've done what they should do. And so the quality is a conversation. And if they never show up, that could be a reason to pass. But if they show up and they do their work, they pass. There's no failing there.
Good morning, Ma'am Annalise. So my question for you is, what are the most challenging thing in setting up this kind of program?
There were many. So I think the limited budget was really a challenge, because then we had little hours, and because I was the department head, I felt responsible. I did not feel comfortable. So when things lacked, I couldn't ask the tutors too much because they had their hours. I couldn't ask the coordinator because she was already overworking, and because then I felt responsible, I was solving it. So I was exhausted after these 2 years. So that was challenging. It was challenging to navigate the different, maybe cultural differences and different educational differences. Some had done bachelor, immediately did their master. Some had a practice of 10 years of professional practice, came in, and one didn't have a bachelor but had a very professional practice, and he was from Cairo, from more of a poor family, but really was self-educated and came in, and so he had very different expectations of a master than another person and another person. So to synchronize these different expectations and also to understand with the different expectations that someone enters, that was really challenging, because you don't see somebody else's expectations. And I think in retrospect, maybe I should have given more time to what they expect, to understand better also the differences. Maybe I assumed too easy that things would, that they would find each other, because that also worked in the years before. And then COVID was a huge challenge. So there was no physical presence, there was this, so much digital. We broke a lot of rules, always in common agreement, but we couldn't follow up with all the official rules, because that would kind of mentally put people very down. And also particularly the ones from Egypt, but also from Lebanon and Palestine. COVID was one of the many crises. Well, for the Dutch people, there was like a huge crisis. Well, for them, it was one of many challenges. So it was not. They didn't take it. Well, they took it serious, but we had a lot of conversations, and also because we had this space where we had 24-hour access, we also used that opportunity. It was their only time in Amsterdam to study, to be there, but it was challenging to each time find that. And then the students said, but another challenge thing, so the curriculum was very open, and I thought it's very student-shaped. But then a lot of students, they felt, but this curriculum is nothing. I went to a master and I expect a clear program. And I thought, well, this is fantastic that we offer such an open program. So there was and so there were so many, and then there was the COVID, which was also unpredictable. So there were so many unpredictable aspects that they said, we want structure. We don't want this openness. And then I said, okay, but then what structure? And then there were different opinions. And so I think maybe I also opened too much space for critique, that it was too much attention to criticality and less to, okay, how can we move forward? So that's something that we really had to balance, and it was, yeah, that was also confrontational on personal levels on different ways.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. We're really we're exposed to the structured type of classroom management. So I was just telling Ma'am Jean, probably we can do a study on something that's more open, which can really align with our discipline. So I was also struck by the one that you mentioned. There's a need probably to do more I'm stuck presentation to see whether things work or what works and what does not work. So probably looking into the process, of course, is the most important way, as I saw how you dealt with the process so that there's a good outcome at the end. I think at the moment, since we're so structured, even the attendance, of course, 3 absences means it's equivalent to, to dropping the sub, something like that. But probably at the moment, what can work is the inclusion of the I'm stuck presentation. That may work at this time, and then probably we can recommend a study on what can work for the discipline, what is more effective. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe there's one. There's also a downside of less structure, because also it happened that sometimes hardly any students showed up because they're not obliged to show up. And then here, what I encountered in the last 1.5 weeks in working with different groups, they were so motivated and so willing to contribute and to do, and that's also, that also creates a very generative and generous space to make and move forward. So there's different ups and downs. I had foreseen a small kind of workshop-ish. So you see white paper on the table. And I thought I would like to ask each of you maybe to write down 3 words with the black marker, 3 words that you take out of the presentation and our conversation for yourself. And then I have another question about these 3 words. Meanwhile, if there's other questions, I'm very open for more questions, but I thought also looking at the time, I wanted to ask you to write down these 3 words. If you're ready, you give this paper to the person right of you. And then with the new paper, maybe you can see how they are connected and what it associates for you. So maybe take a pencil and kind of make a drawing. How do they connect it? But what other words do you need to add? Like how do those words resonate for you? Kind of make a mapping, like how how do you see them connected? Is it just a line? Is it a running person? Is it, and also what kind of other words does it associate for you? Yeah. How are they connected, and what do you need to add to make them connected for your, in your opinion? And you can be as creative as you want. You can also change the words, add letters. Okay, and when you're done, you give it again to the person right of you. So don't give it back, but give it to the other person. Okay, as you are with two on the table, maybe you can exchange your papers. So you have a paper that you haven't had yet. Okay, and if you now have the paper, complete what the other person started. And do it with what, a marker, pencil, kind of, so yeah. Yes, but now you have a new paper that you haven't yet had. Yeah, so complete what the previous person was doing, but from your own perspective. What does it associate? Does it raise a question? Does it raise an imagination? Kind of, what does it mean, and how does it mean something for you? Maybe a coffee. Okay, and the more you write, the more meaning it will have. Okay, and then you give it back to the first person who wrote those 3 words. So now everyone should have their original paper. Okay, and now I'm curious to know, maybe from each table, just to share a bit about the words you wrote and what how it evolves. Is that okay? No, I'm just curious to see what you wrote down. Maybe you could just say very briefly about what you wrote down and what how the responses were.
Yeah. I think our words are more or less connected to each other because one is crisis, conversation, and contribution. Then Amel's was engaged, free, and disarmed. And mine was sensorial, embodied, lived. So in a way, they're all connect with each other because they all connect like how we act in crisis, how we embody crisis, how we live crisis, and how do you act in crisis by being engaged, being free, and being disarmed.
And this table?
I'll explain this. Okay, so we have three terms: capitalist system, informal assessment, solidarity. Anyhow, capitalist system, it's in existence nowadays, but there's an alternative. What if we apply informal assessment just so that we are able to create a community with solidarity, and in that way our lives gets better, more productive in a way.
Nice. I thought just maybe one person per table who could just talk about the table.
Okay, for the words we have collaboration, community, student-centered, creative liberty, feed forward, connect, disconnect, do, undo, what others? Curriculum, wholeness. So what embarks on us here is that we have reflected that in order for us to learn something is that what triggers me most is the human figure that comes out with a representation of the curriculum on how we get it from head to toe, the representation. We're in fact, learning actually takes in three domains, right? The cognitive, the affective, and the physical motor, which is basically the skills. And that actually equates to the wholeness, communities, and how we collaborate, and the process of connecting with each other. So for us to embrace diversity in all of us.
Beautiful, thank you.
So our words are participatory, agency, and urgencies, process, experiment, and dialogue. So Sarah connected mine with urgencies of agency and participatory art. And for her, find the process to experiment and start a dialogue. It's curious that the commonality of this is the action, the process behind the whole program that really stood out for us.
Beautiful, thank you. Maybe one of you?
Some of the words we came about: collaborative, space, and design. So how to interpret this? People create spaces for collaborative works through shared and collective ideas and practices that create an infinite realm of ideas.
Beautiful, thank you.
For us, we have no structure, self-assessment, anticipation, and also community openness, collaboration, and also personal inquiry, collective, and lived experience. For this, I think the difference of using our words is the perspective of the professors and as well as a student. So our words has emerge. So there's is a sense of connectiveness.
Beautiful. So this was a very small and fast exercise, but what I really like as a practice is that you make something and you allow somebody else to continue making it, and you allow somebody else to continue making it, and not necessarily to stay in the spirit of the original person, but to see, okay, how does it resonate for you, and how can you build upon it. And I think that's really valuable also in creating dialogues, in building communities, and like how can we not necessarily kind of have a long discussion until we agree and then start making, but to be free of like, okay, here is my material, then do something with it, and yeah, allow it to appear without first having an idea, but to really allow the process to open it and to generate a certain energy and ideas. We're waiting for the president to come to offer the books to the library. For you, I all have this leaflet on the table, like for the subjective editions and for the Disarming design. And I really invite you to visit the websites, because there's way more information. And I think the websites really work as an archive. Josephine, you would like to, or Portia, add something?
I think for this week the past 2 weeks, we've been going on about the possibilities of art and design. And I think it's been very helpful in formulating and rethinking the possibilities. And I think in the Disarming design, when they had a little bit of questions and conflict on the name, I can see where they're coming from, but at the same time, reimagining or recreating a new question is also very, very challenging for the parts of the students. But opening that dialogue is, I think, an important part of the challenge. And I think this is our final public program for Annalise. If we have a little bit more questions or things we want to clarify with her, or design, I think design questions, art questions, you can get in touch with Annalise or in the Artistic Research Center with Miss Josephine Torralba, and then of course in the JCB Gallery of the university. And yeah, right on time to present Annalise's books on the subjective atlases and her different design books. Here is President Marco Benitez of the Philippine Women's University, and Miss Purita Uson, our head of the library of the Philippine Women's University. So if I may call on Josephine Torralba, Annalise. Yes.
So this is Design Dedication, about design education, the durable discussion book with essays from the Disarming Design Department. I really, really recommend to read it. The Subjective Atlas of Pakistan, with incredible works, with amazing Pakistani artists that contributed to this atlas. Subjective Atlas of Kaunas, a city in Lithuania, much smaller than Pakistan. Subjective Atlas of Luxembourg, Subjective Atlas of Palestine, very, very important one, and a Subjective Atlas of Amsterdam, and shedding a light on Amsterdam for very different and diverse perspectives. And it's my honor to give them to the library.
I guess on behalf of the university, we would like to thank Annalise, not only for the books, but I think more importantly for your visit, for connecting with our faculty and our students, sharing with them your expertise and introducing to them this new facet of artistic research, which we have only just started to explore the past past year or so, and which will open up many more opportunities for research on the artistic side for our students and our faculty. So it's a very exciting area of research that we are starting to explore, and we're very thankful for your visit and introducing us to this aspect. And we look forward to your visit next year.
Yes, maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to Director Jing, our faculty from the School of Fine Arts and Design. Dean Earl is here also, who are actively engaged in this field.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Maybe a photo with everyone before it's a tight schedule for our university officials. So before Dean Earl's closing remarks, let's take a group photo. Come on, please. Let's maybe. That's not a good. And I think this is also the good moment for Dean Earl to close the program.
Sensorial education, according to Annalise. Sensorial education. So first of all, we'd like to thank Annalise de Wit, who flew all over from the Netherlands to be with us. Artistic research is reflective practice. And obviously what we heard from Annalise today goes beyond our practices as artists, musicians, in my case as an ethnomusicologist. Her talk and her work with Palestinian refugees and other marginalized communities speaks at the very heart of what it means to be a human being. So whether it's artistic practice, scientific practice, academic practice, or our own personal practices, I hope we reflect on what Annalise has taught us, and it's how to engage ourselves with the wider world around us, how to act in times of crisis, and how to use ourselves to make this world a better place. And that goes beyond any type of practice, it goes beyond any type of artistic research. Pedagogically, her program on Disarming Design also teaches us the numerous possibilities by which knowledge can be produced and can be shared, and by which knowledge can be used to again make this world a better place. So let's all make this world a better place by reflecting on what we've heard this morning. And thank you, Annalise. Every time It was such a wow moment for me, and I'm sure my colleagues at ITP will agree with me. The first time we heard her at our classes in Antwerp, it was such an inspiring moment for me. I'm very lucky to have her as my mentor for my artistic research. So thank you, Annalise, for coming over. We thank President Marco for hosting us this morning. We thank Portia for all her work at the JCB Gallery and the Artistic Research Center head by Jean Turalba. And in behalf of Dean Murphy of the School of Fine Arts and Design and me as the School of Music, thank you all for coming this morning. And let's all make this world a better place. Thank you.